everybody. Welcome to The Productive Agent and this week's episode. My name is Tony Ruiz. I'm the founder and host of the Productive Agent podcast and Facebook group. And please welcome my good friend, Alan Greulich.
Hey, Tony. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of surreal because we had been talking about doing this for quite a while.
For a really long time.
But it must have been like the beginning of the year. We're like, okay, we want to do a podcast. We're both interested. You kind of started a podcast, and then we talked about doing it together. You know, now we're here. You're doing your own thing. You're doing your video and all that great stuff.
We're taking action.
So it's exciting. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. So Alan is a productive real estate agent here in San Antonio, Texas. He's a former educator where we first met. He's been in the business for 6 years, and he started at Keller Williams and has moved over to EXP in 2018. He is a certified mentor and has over 100 agents in his organization, which we'll get to in a little bit. So we're excited to have you, and I want to kind of just pick your brain and just let it flow and see where the conversation goes, right?
Sounds good.
Alan, tell us a little bit about who you are. What's your story?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And thanks for having me on, Tony. I appreciate it. So I was actually raised in New Jersey. I went to high school in New Jersey and decided to go into music education. That was the degree I went after. Studied music, and I went to school in Virginia, actually, at James Madison University. And then what brought me to Texas was I went to graduate school here in the Dallas area at University of North Texas. So I studied music performance there. And then was quickly running out of money, and also my parents were probably on my case about paying my bills. So realized that I needed to get into teaching as quick as I could because I had that degree. Yeah. And obviously it wasn't my intention to fully start doing that, but got into it and ended up loving it a lot. Yep. I was a terrible teacher my first year, I'll admit, but I was surrounded by...
I'm sure you weren't that
bad.
No,
I really was. And I was surrounded by great people and great mentors, which, obviously we can talk about that now in our real estate career. Yeah. And, thank God for that. I modeled what they were doing, stopped doing the things that obviously were not working, fixed some things with my communication and speech and stuff like that. And got pretty good at it. And then, so I was at six years, if you're familiar with the San Antonio school districts, in Judson ISD. And then my last 2 years, I was at NEISD at MacArthur High School. And my very last year was the headband director at MacArthur High School. Yeah. And
go Bramos.
That's pretty much my, yeah. You were asking about my background, so did I cover that?
Yeah, I mean, and he's a very humble person. He's one of the best musicians that I've known.
Thanks.
He studied with Brian Bowman at UNC, which is like the end-all, be-all of euphonium. So you need to bust that out sometime at some party. Okay. We're just going to bust out our instruments and start playing.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So, well, cool, man. So tell me, your teaching, what was it that kind of got you interested in real estate? How'd you find out about it? Because for me personally, I found out about real estate through Alan.
Nice.
I mean, I knew a couple people that had gone into real estate, but Alan was actually the one that I started talking to, and we were talking about possibly purchasing a house for my wife and I. And that's when, the whole real estate thing was kind of really introduced to me. So what was it for you?
Well, I had an interest in business in general and also real estate. I love to read. And so I started, looking into different career opportunities. And I did have an interest in real estate, and I was talked out of it. And I also talked myself out of it for a long time. So it was really, 3 to 4 years of just thinking about something before actually being a person of action. Which I'd love to talk about that at some point. That's something we're always working on. So, there was a fear. Then there were a lot of changes going on with my life. We were expecting a baby. We just bought a house. We were making all of these changes. And I thought, I'd really like to be, around my daughter more when she's born and spend some time doing that. And it'd be great to be in a career where I can control my time. Yep. We always talk about, people think they can get into real estate and, they have all this free time. Well, that's not really true. Well, it is true if you don't want to make money, so you have to be very intentional with your time. You can control your time. And so that was very attractive to me to be able to do that, spend more time with my family. And so that was a huge motivation for me to get into it. And I finally got over my fears, took my real estate courses and jumped in. And I actually went cold turkey. I went straight into the business, which I actually don't recommend to any new agents.
Yeah.
Even I think I probably tried to talk you out of doing it, but you did well with it. But not many people do. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And can you talk to us a little bit, flashback, if you can, to take us back 6 years ago? You're a brand new agent, cold turkey, like you said. You went to Keller Williams City View, is that correct? Yeah, I think you had already known Mark was there. Was he there at the time?
Yes.
So Mark is a mentor of ours and a good friend of ours. So you went through Keller Williams training. They tell you to do this and that. How was that first 6 months? Like, what did you do to start getting traction?
Right. Well, it's really difficult. So like when you're new to real estate, you don't know what's actually going to work. And just like anything you want to be good at, it takes time, it takes discipline. And so you don't see the results right away. So it's an emotional roller coaster. And it can be very difficult to identify what's going to work for you. So in those first 6 months, I closed literally one deal. And that was scary. I had basically borrowed some money to start my career and watched all that money, quickly, go down the toilet, so to speak, But luckily, I started seeking out mentors. So here we go again with this, our productive agents theme here, always seeking out mentorship. And so I found somebody, his name's Isaac Torres. He was a huge influence on my life and on my business. And I met him actually at
Go ahead.
I met him at a lender event.
Okay, well,
a mortgage event. Yeah,
I've yet to meet Isaac Torres.
Yes.
So we got to invite Isaac Torres.
Yeah.
Isaac Torres, if you're listening to this, you're invited to our next happy hour event.
Right.
So we got to get Isaac in person.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if this guy even exists. I think he does on Facebook.
I just talked to him yesterday. Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, talk to us about that.
Well, that was the thing. So, I ran into him at, an event, and actually Mark was there too.
Okay.
And I was really impressed by him. He definitely had his stuff together, fit the profile. And then I had been hearing from other people that he was doing really well, and you could just tell.
Sure.
And so I was like, hey, this is somebody that I want to connect with, that I'd like to emulate. So we lined up a phone call, and long story short, he ended up just saying, well, why don't you just be on my team?
Okay.
And I was never really into the team thing. You know how we all are. Everybody in real estate got a big ego. They want to try to do everything on their own.
Yeah.
And but I saw that he would be a huge influence on me, and there was things that I could help him out with. And so we basically had like a partnership, because there really weren't other team members. And he mentored me for like 60 days straight every morning. And then we went and got on the phone. And I was just talking about this the other day. Like, he would listen to me make calls. So it was pretty intimidating, but pushed me and got me to realize my potential. So by the end of that calendar year, I think I had done, something like 13 or 14 transactions.
Nice.
So that was a success, meeting him and being tutored by him.
Yeah.
So
how long were you at Keller Williams before you made the switch to EXP?
Great. Yeah. So basically, I spent about 12 months at that second Keller Williams franchise, which was Keller Williams Legacy in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
And realized, okay, I've pretty much figured out what I need to figure out as far as, communicating with clients, how to work with them, how to get them through these transactions, how to be a good buyer's agent, how to be a good listing agent, how to get business, which, by the way, is the hardest thing we do.
Yep.
And so at that point, I started vetting companies, and this is where, I started looking at different companies like EXP and things like that. Is that what you were asking about?
Yeah. So how were you introduced? Did you stumble upon EXP yourself? Did somebody contact you? And the follow-up question to that is, what was the deciding factor that made you choose to go to EXP?
Yeah, so this is actually really interesting, and I appreciate you asking it, and nobody actually ever asked me this question. So
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Great. Let's do it.
So like I said, I obviously knew at some point I'd be leaving to go somewhere else, but I had heard murmurings about EXP Realty for a long time, and, I was with a big company that, sometimes what they would say about the company wasn't always positive. But I have a curious mind. And when I hear things like that, sometimes I go, well, what's the big deal? Like, what is this about? And so I wanted to know more about it. So I heard little things here and there. And like we were talking about, after a year being on that team, I started vetting all of these companies. And so what I did was I got on YouTube and I was searching YouTube, EXP, San Antonio, and there was one guy that was doing anything. And he had this larger than life personality, super charismatic guy, and was just so confident about EXP, even though they were at like less than 4,000 agents. And I don't know, maybe they had 25 agents in San Antonio or something. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, in our organization, you're like the grandfather, at least, or maybe the great grandfather of our organization. It's like you were one of the first adopters and the people that we know closely. Right. And I was like, man, you kind of reached a little bit.
Totally. And that was because of Pat Hayes. So, the person that I found was Pat Hayes. And I thought, okay, that's the guy I need to talk to, because obviously he's an expert. He's been running with this thing for a while. He's been building with this. Yeah. And if you've ever gotten to hear Pat speak, he's just an amazing person. He's super charismatic, interesting guy. So, had a couple of coffees with him, and then, eventually made that leap. And it was a leap. There was less than 5,000 agents. They weren't even close to top 10 in sales in San Antonio or Texas. Right. Next to no agents. And so, it was definitely a leap of faith. And at the time, I remember I was watching these old grainy videos of Gene Frederick, doing a lunch presentation from like 2014 or 2015. And I had what we call EXP insomnia. I was like watching this thing over and over, because I was getting ready to move somewhere, and would tell my wife about it, and she's like, I don't even understand what you're saying, but you seem excited about it, so you should join. Yeah. So anyway, that's the story of how I made the jump.
What would you say is the one or two things that were like, yes, this is why I'm going there? For me personally, I was a brand new agent, and Alan was already there. Mark was on the way over to EXP. So those were like the two people that I knew that were doing it full time. And I just heard 80-20 split. Now, that was it for me. And I was like, oh, well, that's a higher split than I've heard of normal, like a newer agent. So sign me up. I didn't really know anything else besides that. What was like the one or two things as a realtor that had already started a business, doing okay, and go, ooh, this is where I need to be.
Right. Well, you could see that if this company really worked out the way everybody said it was going to, that you could do a lot of great things. I mean, it's an amazing product is really what you might call it, or a consumer experience for the agent, because it allows the agent to build wealth different ways, and it allows you to develop as an agent in a way that hadn't been done before. But it was little things like 80-20. I was like, okay, that's better, and then also, because there was a certain leap of faith to it, it was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I could always take my license, move it somewhere else, big deal. Sure. And then two elements, the stock program and the revenue share. And again, I was sitting there going, this seems too good to be true. Yeah. But if it is true, it seems like something that's worthwhile to try. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, we always hear all these entrepreneurs, like you have to have multiple sources of income, right? I mean, and just joining EXP and being just a real estate agent, you immediately have access to these multiple sources of income. So obviously there's buying rental properties, which maybe we'll touch about in a little bit. But it's once you start getting into it, I was probably about 6 months to a year in, going to these things and kind of figuring it out. And then all of a sudden I got an agent or two. It's like, sure. Oh, wow, like I'm collecting some money every single month from RevShare, and then you just kind of start seeing the power of it. And the more that you're in it, you're like, this is a no-brainer.
And the ability to help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's how this whole thing, this podcast started, was for the Facebook group. Yeah. And then we collaborated, and now we're a year in. It's like, let's reach further with the podcast, and here we are. So it's really, really cool. So you have over 100 agents total in your organization. I know that that's an active part of your business plan, is the attraction part. You talk to a lot of agents, and I'm sure you've probably struck out with a lot of agents, but you've had conversations, and you also do very, very well in attracting agents to EXP. What are some of the pain points that you hear most often, and what are some of the tools that EXP can help those agents with?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, I always say agents, we probably should just premise this with, EXP does have the opportunity to, attract agents. And then because of that, you can earn revenue share. The company compensates you for contributing and helping to grow the company. But agents don't go into real estate to attract agents or to recruit agents. Nobody does that.
Right.
They get into real estate because they want to help people. They want to help families. They can see themselves helping people buy and sell homes. And so, that's what we all do. I still do that. We're both having our best years ever selling homes, and we love doing it. It's the best thing. So, obviously those are pleasure points for agents. And then anything that's going to stop them from doing well with that is going to be pain. And, so if agents aren't getting supported, if there's no support, from their team, their group, their brokerage, if they don't have enough leads coming in, if they don't know how to have those conversations, or how to convert, or, they are struggling financially. And even sometimes we have people that are running teams or running small brokerages, and they're spending all this money. And they don't really need to be spending all that money. They could actually be saving a lot of money. So one of the big points is, finance is a financial pain. What is their takeaway? Like, what's their actual net at the end of the day?
Yeah.
After all this stuff they're spending money on that they may not need to. So, all different types of pains. But luckily, the company does have a lot of solutions for those things, like, leads. Obviously, there's KV Core. Financially, there are stock incentives, awards for production. And then obviously the revenue share, all kinds of systems to help you build your business to become a better, more successful agent, which is huge.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, the support, I mean, I have to admit, 4 or 5 years ago, the support was good, but it's so robust and amazing now. There's literally hundreds of staff members to support us as agents.
Yeah.
So we can go focus on our clients,
Yeah.
not worry so much about, having problems.
Yeah, absolutely. The model, once you get into it, it's pretty mind blowing, honestly, in the support and the way it's growing. And I'm really excited about Success
Enterprises.
Success Enterprises, and they're opening that up. Well, what are they calling?
Spaces.
Success Spaces. There it is, right? So that's going to be really, really cool. But I remember when I first started, I had people that I knew that were like, "Oh, are you going to become a broker?" And the old school way of gaining wealth, like true wealth in real estate, was you get your broker's license and you hire agents. And then this has totally flipped that. But think about all the responsibilities you have. You probably need an office space. You probably need to buy tech to support your agents and all that. But EXP has solved all that. And I like to think of it, I am building a brokerage, I have
Within a brokerage?
Yeah, building a brokerage within a brokerage, and very little responsibility for those agents because EXP takes that on per agent and all those things. And we're not going to get into every detail about the model, but it's pretty spectacular, and the opportunities of growth.
It's exciting for sure.
So you've been doing this business for about 6 years. You said you had probably closed about 12 to 13 deals. Can you talk a little bit about your production business side of things, of like, what are some of the things that you've done to kind of elevate your business from year 1 to 2, 3, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, definitely. So, when I started, I really didn't have much of a sphere of influence. Every new agent needs to start working on a database, and that's full of all the people that know you, like you, and trust you. Organize contact information, their name, phone, email, because you're supposed to market to those people. Well, when you grow up in New Jersey and then you're a teacher and you don't do anything outside of that specific teaching role, you don't get to meet a whole lot of other professionals in different fields. And so I didn't have that good of a database, basically.
Sure.
So, and that's one of the reasons why I was attracted to the mentor that I was working with when I told you earlier about Isaac, is he, built his business in a specific way, and that was going after cold leads. because I realized I've got to do something different because I just don't have what most people would normally have. And so that meant a lot of open houses. I spent pretty much every weekend for the first year and a half of my business doing open houses. I remember some of the first open houses I did, I don't even think I had gone to a training, or I just started doing it. I didn't know what to say. I put some signs out and stood in the house and was not successful several times. So I've always failed forward, and I've always tried to get out of my comfort zone, which, believe it or not, I'm having to get back into this idea of getting out of my comfort zone.
Sure.
Because I got very comfortable being uncomfortable in my first year and a half. And because of that, I developed some momentum. So open houses, we called a lot of internet leads. And so, the team I was on, they were taking care of providing some leads. And of course I had to pay another cut for those types of things if that ended up working out.
Right.
But, I learned how to do these buyer scripts, how to have conversations where people didn't feel uncomfortable, and then convert it and then help them buy a home. So, all of that built up a lot of skills for me.
Yep.
And then there became a point where I didn't have to do all of those things as much because I had developed a database.
Right.
I had, 40, 50 or so people where I could start marketing to that database, which is a completely different discussion.
Yeah.
And is the most important part of building any business, is that book of business. So
Well, and you hit on so many great things there. And when you mentioned scripts, you are probably the most well-known, for me personally. You know scripts, like it's been ingrained in you, and you were trained on that, and you do it really well. But you do it in a way that it doesn't sound like a script, And again, that just takes time and practice and doing it and failing, and I'm not going to say it that way, I'm going to say it this way, and it's and I think as we get into this, it can be a struggle, especially if you're early on and you're still figuring things out, but it's only going to get better, and even with this is the 5th podcast. It's like, okay, well, this is getting more, organic and better, and every single one. And same thing, like I'm struggling right now doing videos, and I know we're doing this, but making sure that this is taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
The only way that we grow is to get in our uncomfortable zone. And so thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you love about real estate? If you were to just encompass everything in real estate, you go, man, I'm so blessed and lucky to be in this business, and I love what real estate gives me.
Yeah, sure. I think it's really two things. We talked about sort of the development that I've had personally, and a lot of agents have, where you can start focusing on the people that you have relationships with. And, because in the beginning, it was mostly a transaction-based business. Sure. It kind of had to be to put food on the table, And but now it's more relationship-based. I've got some really amazing people that I can connect with on a daily, weekly basis. Many of which have done business with me or have referred me business. And so, I make it a point to stay in contact, and that's become one of the most pleasurable parts of the business is just building those relationships, being able to tell somebody like happy birthday or happy anniversary or happy house anniversary.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I got that word right, because I usually mess it up, and so it's just real actual relationships, and that is a lot more fun than burning the phones. But that's part of it, that you got, like, it's a common theme, like being comfortable, being uncomfortable is going to get you from point A to point B, and then you get to deserve to have those types of relationships with people if you don't already have them. And then the second thing is, specific to where we're at, is sharing this opportunity with agents. I heard this recently where, maybe it was a video that my mentor sent me or something like that, is, people always say, follow your passion, follow your passion, follow your passion. Well, if I had followed my passion, I'd probably be poor on the street playing an instrument for, the bus, the people getting off the bus or something. It just really wasn't in the cards. But if you get really good at something and work really hard at it and do something, even when you want to quit, you just keep going, And all of a sudden you have a story you can tell, like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And not only that, an opportunity that I could share with other agents. And I'm not just talking about this company, but hey, here's what I did to build this business.
Yep.
Here's what you can do to build this business. Learn from my mistakes, like we always talk about. Follow a model, get with a coach. And so to be on the coaching end of that now, and to combine the teaching stuff that we've built up over the years with real estate has been really rewarding. And on top of that, to show them, hey, also, if you align with this business model, not only can you do better on the things you already want to do better, you'll also have all these financial perks, and you'll be able to get to your goals 10 times faster because you have this vehicle. So those two things are pretty important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, those are great. Is there something that you're working on right now that is kind of new to you that you're excited about?
Yeah, so I started doing more video content at the beginning of this year, and admittedly got off of doing that, kind of got off track, wanted to get back into some other things. So that is something that I'm excited about. I have a coach right now, and who's helping me to stay accountable to the goals that I have, because we're always setting goals. We're always trying to get to the next level. So that's exciting. One of the things that I've picked up recently that's helped me quite a bit is to stop analyzing so much. I think many of us have this problem is we get into this analysis mode, and I got to make a plan for my plan, It's true.
Yeah.
And to just go, all right, and part of this is from somebody we follow, Andy Frisella, is to just go, maybe we should just create a really quick plan, jot it down, take 20, 30 minutes, and then just start taking action. And so I've been more excited about the action stuff now, because we both know that's really what moves the ball forward is like those small daily disciplines every day are going to create big results.
No, I want to just thank you, because I know when I find myself kind of in a slump or kind of distracted or planning to plan, and it doesn't happen, I call Alan, and he's like, hey man, just do the Power 5. What's your Power 5 today? What's the first thing that you're going to do? What is the one thing that can move, the needle? So I appreciate that support, and he does the same to me, and it's holding people accountable, in a positive way, not like, hey, what the hell? You're not doing your shit, but it's like, hey man, I care about you and I want you to do better and be the best, so I really appreciate that. In fact, this is our first time. It was Alan's idea, and originally to have a beer. So cheers to a friendship and a partnership.
Absolutely.
I do have some fun questions to kind of wrap up this interview.
Good timing.
Cheers. Let me take a drink here. So tell us, you're into books and podcasts and stuff like that and growing. What would be your best book or podcast you've ever read or listened to? And if you have a couple at the top, I have a couple, but whatever you want.
Yeah, there's definitely one book. So this was years ago when I was still teaching. I ended up having this book in my apartment, and I don't even know how it got there, honestly. That's the truth of that. But I remember seeing it and going, what is this thing? It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
And I had no idea what the concept was, and then did a quick Google, and I found out what it was about, started reading it, and it changed my life. And we should have talked about this before, because it was one of those things that actually got me to kind of, get off the sideline, get off the couch and jump into business, because the concept is you want to get money to work for you. You don't want to work for money. Right. Which means, if you have a job, you should probably have some sort of side hustle to generate another form of income, another form of residual income, and ironically, real estate agents, if you think about it, you're still doing a job every day. Right. Job, get the payday. Do the job, get the payday. Do the job. So you're still working for money. You're not getting money to work for you. So the beauty of the model is you actually have ownership. Ownership is all the money in real estate is in ownership, not in commissions. So if you're at a company, any company where they share revenue, or stock or both, that means you're an owner. which means you're actually having money work for you. Okay, it's the same thing like buying an investment property. You do that for the passive income stream. So
Sure.
those things got me really excited, and I quickly realized, like, wow, I'm kind of in a hamster wheel of sorts in some ways, So it's okay to have a job, right? But try to find different things you can do to generate these extra income sources. And I help people with that too. I'm not a financial advisor or anything, but
Right.
So yeah, good book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I would definitely check that out if people haven't read it.
Yeah, definitely. So we talk about this quite a bit, and I know that we relate to this because we had crazy long, stupid hours of teaching band, right? I mean, remember those days were just like nonstop, super late. But one of the things I love about real estate is we can have balance, and we can, yes, sometimes we have to get up and go and show a house or do a listing or whatever it is, but we can have a better balanced life. What do you like to do on your days off?
Good question. So I've got 2 little kids, so very much a family man. My daughter's 6, my son's 3. I do like to spend time with them. So we try to do something intentional with them on the weekends. Even if it's just go to the playground or something like that, I like being a dad. I like being in their lives. Like I said, that was one of the major motivators for getting into this, being able to control my time.
Right.
But also my wife and I love live music. That's what we like to do. By the way, we should do that sometime.
Yeah, didn't you just go up here again? You keep on hanging out in Bulverde Spring Branch, don't you?
Yeah.
What is that place called? I've been meaning to go check.
House Tavern.
Yeah.
Good place.
I keep on seeing it on your stories.
Yeah, and there was a band playing, which we didn't know there was a band playing, and it was like a white reggae band was playing. And that was kind of cool. But, recently we saw Dave Matthews cover band.
Nice.
I try to get, like really good seats for the artists that I like, because I believe it's that experience you'll never forget. So it's worth it.
Yep.
So we like to go out and eat, dine, all that stuff, have a good time. We recently had a wine party. Yeah. Which was that was cool. It was a good time.
I might have to copy that, by the way.
Please do.
Once we get settled in
get this thing going.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. What would you say the best piece of advice that has ever been given to you, or a piece of advice that you would like to give to other people?
Well, the one that kind of sticks out in my mind, I guess, because we were talking about the early days today, and my first mentor was to always keep your foot on the pedal, is one of the things you would always tell me. Yeah. And you can apply that to pretty much everything in life, because really what that means is once you get momentum, which is hard to get to, right? We could just talk about how to get there, and that would take an hour. But once you get momentum, don't stop doing the things that got you to the momentum. Yeah. Which we still make the mistake over and over and over, because we second guess ourselves, we analyze it. But anyway, and the concept for real estate sales is like, hey, if you've got a couple deals under contract, that doesn't mean you go kick back. Right. Unless that's your goal. Like, hey, okay, if that's all you need to do, you have a spouse, they're like the breadwinner, you don't care. All right, that's different. But like, if you want to achieve the next level, you need to always keep your foot on the pedal. So I guess that's it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a good one, because we all like to take our foot off the pedal for sure. So I'll keep that in mind. Last one, and this is specific to you. I know that we're both big Andy Frisella fans, and we listen to that. And I'm considering, when I heard about 75 Hard Challenge, which you did, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm ever doing that, right?
People are looking at me now like,
no, whatever. Guy? No, but I mean, it takes a lot. And you've talked about this. Yeah. What was the thing that you learned from doing the 75 Hard Challenge?
Well, first of all, I recommend that to everybody, no matter what your age, whatever experiences you have or your current condition, because it's a mental toughness challenge. And if you listen to Andy's show, it's called the Real AF Podcast. He talks about how the fact that it's a mental toughness challenge. People see it as kind of a fitness thing. But what happens is you have certain things you need to do. I won't go into too much detail, but it's like 2 workouts a day, drinking a gallon of water, reading 10 pages of personal development books, sticking to a diet of your choice, no negotiations, no cheating for 75 days. I'd probably lift something out there, 75 days straight.
Did you hear? Sorry to interrupt. Did you see Ricky Carruth is doing it right now?
Oh, is he really?
He posted. I saw it yesterday. I shared it with my wife, and I think the hardest thing I'm gonna struggle with, honestly, is the gallon of water. Like that's pretty intimidating. I know that sounds crazy, but
No.
I've been working on.
Yeah.
I could do that. The diet thing, I'll figure out whatever that. But it's like a gallon of water. Like that's hard.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is. Yeah. So what you get out of it is you realize all the excuses you're making for little things all day and how they add up to kind of taking you away from the goals you're trying to hit. And what was crazy is when I was done with it, it stayed for me for like a solid year. It's like, obviously I lost some weight in the process. I'm up like 7 or 8, by the way.
Yeah.
But I had lost like 20 pounds or something. But my business took off.
Nice.
Like it totally took off because I was just doing those simple things every day.
Yeah.
And you quickly realize how much time you waste on a normal day, you know?
Yeah.
So definitely recommend it.
Awesome, man. Well, that concludes our questions. How can people get in contact with you? You got social media, got email, anything you want to share with everybody that wants to maybe reach out to you?
Yeah, I think probably just Instagram. That's kind of the place right now for me. And It's simply just my name, Alan Greulich, and it's Greulich.
I always
Alan,
mess that
A-L-A-N.
up. So I'm actually
Yeah,
checking
just
it.
at Alan Greulich.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a YouTube channel and stuff that I'm working on, and of course, like the other stuff. But really, Instagram's where I'm starting to put some content and things like that might help people.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, it's been some time between us sitting down and getting this going, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us and then sharing your story. Guys, if you enjoyed the content, we do this on a weekly basis. I would encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, share it with friends. There's plenty of agents out there that are looking for sources like this to connect with, to enjoy the content. So I encourage you to do that. You can also request to follow us on our Facebook page. Me, Alan, and Mark are admin on that. It's at The Productive Agent is the private Facebook page where we post these things pretty much on a daily basis, and we have live events as well. You could also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. All of that will be in the show notes. So I would encourage you to reach out to Alan, myself, any of us. Let's connect, let's share and grow. We thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the content. So now let's get out there and go produce.